tonight, the 2010 IAVA Veteran Leadership Award will go to Wes Moore. And you know, I have not had the pleasure to meet Wes until tonight, and really didn't know much about Wes, and maybe many of you did. And I got the bio on Wes and started reading about him, and had a chance to meet him tonight, and what an amazing young man. And what's ironic about all this was during the time of 2006, when I was probably at the pinnacle of my professional career, winning a Super Bowl up in Detroit. In that same time frame, Wes was serving in the 82nd Airborne over in Afghanistan. And so I guess it made my championship, kind of puts it in its trivial sense. And you know, when you talk about an inspiring story, you know, I shared this with Wes, and I had the privilege of sitting next to his mom and his lovely wife. You know, my daughter, I shared this with Wes, joined Teach for America. In the last 2 years, she was able to teach in the Bronx. And I'd come up for CBS, and every Saturday night, we'd have dinner. And she'd tell me the stories and how she was trying to make a difference in their lives. And she told me how in 8th grade they had the graduation. An 8th grade graduation in the Bronx, that was a big deal because they had a chance to go to high school. College was not even a thought. College didn't happen to them. That was the lucky. That were the few. Those were the exception. And she tried to make that the pivotal point of every one of them. And you're talking about an individual in Wes Moore who did start in the Bronx. Went to Johns Hopkins, where he was able to play football as a receiver. Loved basketball like many of us did. Limited athletic ability, so you go to the football field. As I did. He excelled there and went on as a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford University. You know, this guy has been viewed as a man of vision and a man of purpose. And he's the forefront of helping youth. And who could have been any more moved when you saw the 22nd school up here performing tonight? I'm sure that it brought back some memories from Wes. You know, he's got a book that's called The Other Wes Moore. It obviously became a New York bestseller. Wes Moore is not just a leader. Wes Moore is a pioneer.
This is extraordinarily humbling for me. First of all, I was just announced by Coach Cower. That's a very big deal to me. And I want to be very clear, Coach. I mean, I've tried to stay in shape because I know at some point, you know, Coach will end up back in the NFL. Hopefully, he'll lead the Baltimore Ravens to another Super Bowl. And thank you. And I just want to let you know that anytime you need me, I'm ready. I'll take the league minimum. Not a big deal, but I'm ready. But it is, but truly, I mean, this is an unbelievable honor. It really is. And Brian, you know, on the day of the Marines' birthday, Brian, you're the first in and the last out on all this stuff, and we just could not be more humbled to have your leadership and support for all these issues. So thank you so much. Thank you. And to share a stage with someone like David Gelbaum, and what was said earlier about David, again, it needs to be restated. You know, this is a person who has given so much to so many people, many of whom who he will never meet. But he's given so much of his time and his energy and his resources to making sure that America's heroes are treated properly when they come back home. So again, it is an absolute honor to share the stage with him, and just thank you for this opportunity to do so. And I'm extraordinarily thankful, too, for the amount of family and loved ones and friends who are here right now. Just a few of them as I'm looking down, I'm looking at, you know, Tom and Annie. Thank you so much for all your leadership and support. At Ty, at Moose, and I'm looking over here at Seth and Liz and Tim and Rob and Tori. I mean, there's just such a whole list of people, Todd, and so this whole list of people here, and just extraordinarily thankful for everybody that is here. And I know you're all not here for me per se, but it was great catching up with y'all since you've been out here. And also again, friends like Olivia and Jason and Tug and magic makers like that. I mean, your support really has been the air that has lifted me throughout. I get a chance to look at the table as well, and I get a chance to see my mother-in-law, who's not just an amazing person, but an extraordinary friend. I see my mother, and anyone who knows me, they know how much I love my mama. And they know the bar for me when I look at her. If I can be half the person that she is, then I know I'm doing all right. Half the person. And I look at my beautiful wife, who is not only my best friend, but is also my beautiful pregnant wife. And it's extraordinarily humbling to be here. And I just wanted to also just acknowledge one more person real quick. And if I could ask him just to stand real quick. Roberto, can you just stand up real quick? This young man is a mentee of mine from the South Bronx, attends the Eagle Academy for Young Men in the South Bronx. He's an extraordinary guy, and I'm incredibly proud to say next year he will be a cadet at West Point. The reason I wanted you to stand isn't just because I'm incredibly proud of you, but it's also because the people that you see around here, the ones who stood up when it said people who served in uniform, the people who you see on screen, these are the young men and women who will be under your command. These are the young men and women who are going to entrust their lives in your hands. It's an extraordinary honor. It's a humbling opportunity. It's the proudest thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm honored to say that you're now going to join those ranks and become a lieutenant and do the same thing. So good luck. And lastly, quick, but obviously not least at all, this organization, IAVA, this is an organization that means so much to me on so many different levels. First of all, the leadership here, and first I just want to acknowledge Vic. Vic, the chairman of the board, who his leadership and his drive and his energy continues to push not just board members, but everyone in the organization to push us to think bigger, to dream higher about what this organization is and what this organization can be. Thank you, and the entire board for all your leadership. To the IAVA members, the IAVA staff who work tirelessly every single day advocating for those who can't advocate for themselves sometimes. What you do every day, when you talk about unsung heroes, the folks who show up every single day and fight for GI Bill benefits, that fight for advance appropriations, that fight to make sure that veterans are not forgotten. I just want to stand here and say that you're not forgotten. So to the entire staff of IAVA, thank you for all you do. And very quick, my good friend Paul Rykoff. Now, true story about Paul, and Paul hates this story, so that's why I'm going to share it. The way I first met Paul Rykoff was Paul is all over the television. And I see Paul fighting and advocating for vets. And I know how helpful it was when I came back to know that there was someone who was fighting on my behalf. And I was at an event that Paul Rykoff was at, and we both went to the men's room, and we were doing what men do in the men's room. And we're standing next to each other doing what men do in the men's room. And as we finish up and we go to the sinks, I look over at Paul and I just say, hey, I know you don't know me, but I just wanted to say I'm really impressed I'm just really impressed by you. And he looked at me like I'm absolutely out of my mind. Because he's like, I'm not sure what you're impressed about. So I clarified. So I clarified. And I just let him know that how much it impresses me that this is a man who took an idea. This is a man who took an idea. This is a man who took a personal experience. An experience of coming back and feeling like there weren't people around that understood him and said, you know what, I'm going to make sure that no veteran has to feel that same way. He took a concept and turned that concept into not only the nation's first, but the nation's largest organization that advocates for veterans and their families. Paul, thank you. And to the sponsors, the people, the corporations, you know, like my friends over at Citi, people who took their time and their resources and their energy to make this happen. This could all not have been done without you, and all people here. Now, I mean, my journey into the military, as you saw from the video, it really started pretty unexpectedly and pretty forcefully. When I was 12 years old, when my mother decided that it was a good idea to send me off to military school. And after that first mandatory and very eventful year, which included multiple death-defying escape attempts, there was something about that place and there was something about the military spirit that caught me. What caught me about the military school and what caught me about the idea of a military spirit was that this, for the first time, I felt like my identity mattered. I felt like an idea of service mattered, an idea of leadership mattered, and I felt like an idea that brotherhood mattered. And when I finished high school, to my surprise and really to my mother's surprise, I decided that I wanted to actually join the military. And I wanted to join the military not just because the military decided to help me pay for college, which they did. But I wanted to join the military because in that school, in that I found there was a feeling of home that I yearned for. I found there was a feeling of service that I enjoyed. And then for a decade now, in multiple different units, in multiple different capacities, and including under the cloud of combat, I can proudly say that I've worn the uniform of this country, and it's, again, to this day, the proudest thing I've ever done in my life. I considered it an absolute honor to serve with the men and women that I serve with, who, to this day, are still the bravest men and women I've ever served with in my life. And I consider it not just an honor, but also a solemn responsibility to not just protect them while they're overseas, but then also give them whatever they need to honor them when they come back home. So, and in many ways, the work I do now to work with youth and the work I do now to support youth around the country was really born. It was born out of a structure and a belief in second chances, and that belief in second chances is what I got from the military. That's the currency that I got from serving in the armed forces. So I stand here truly humbled because I know this award isn't about me. I stand here humbled because I know that I stand here on behalf of the men and women who literally, as we speak, are right now patrolling the Kunar Valley. Literally, as we speak, are patrolling the Kunar Valley. Men and women who don't know nor care whether or not Bristol Palin voted last week, or if Lil Wayne got released from prison, or whether the House Republicans taking over was supposed to send a larger message. These are men and women who patrol simply because their buddies are patrolling, and they refuse to let them go out on their own. I stand here. I stand here today on behalf of all the military families, families just like my own, who would hear about ideas of IEDs or troops in contact and just sit there and pray that it's not their loved one that the news anchor is talking about when they talk about how many troops were lost that day. And I stand here on behalf of the soldier who is now coming back from their third deployment, who every time they left the wire with this fatalistic cloak wrapped around their shoulders, unsure what that day was going to bring. And when they came back home to balloons and streamers and parades. But then the day after, when those balloons popped and those streamers came down, they realized that a new normality had set in, and one that many people are unprepared for. The challenges we face in this country are far too great for only a small sliver of our society to be a part of the larger conversation. We have over 2.2 million Americans who have stepped up and answered the call when one was given. So now as we think about these new challenges that this country faces, new challenges such as how do we reinvigorate a crumbling education system? How do we create jobs for people that don't have them? How do we have a genuine conversation about alternative energy? We can not only have a small percentage of the population being part of that conversation. These 2.2 million Americans answer the call when they were asked, and they're ready to answer another call. They just need our support in doing so. I stand here today humbled because when I needed help and support, and when my family needed help and support, you were there for me. You were there for them. And I'm extraordinarily indebted to each and every one of you, and I plan to spend the rest of my life trying to pay back and show you that your investment, that I will make a return on your investment. And that's all we ask for the soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines who are fighting overseas right now, is to give them an opportunity to make that return on the investment. So I stand here again just humbled for this honor and thankful for you. Thankful for not just the investment that you make in our veterans, but when you do that, I'm thankful for the investment that you're making in our country's future. God bless you and thank you so much.